Day 8. Today we did some sightseeing around Launceston, starting with a boat tour along the Tamar River. The guide spoke about the buildings around the river, the jobs that are conducted on and around the river, and of the history, including the original homes built on the hills near the river. A number of these have even been converted into B&Bs, and you can stay the night there. The cruise went up the Cataract Gorge into South Esk River. We went under the King's Bridge, which was the only bridge leading north out of the city for nearly 100 years. Along the sides of the gorge are walking tracks. Quite a lot of people go walking through there. Kids like to dive off the rocks into the water to go swimming, and people climb the sides of the gorge. There's a face in the rocks on the way out that the guide said is the spirit of the gorge and protects it. Unfortunately, the wife's camera stopped working, so after the cruise we went into town and bought her a new camera. We met a local rider that we'd parked next to and had a short chat, and then we headed off to continue our day at the Cataract Gorge Scenic Chairlift. I'd never been on a chairlift before. It was a really cool experience. The chairlift, this particular one, is the longest single-span chairlift in the world, with the longest single span being 308 meters. The chairlift was built in 1972 and has a total span of 457 meters. At the other end is Launceston's own piece of wilderness, filled with peacocks, wildlife, and some truly massive trees. Once we'd finished looking around, we headed back to the nightcap for that night and had dinner with OzSTOC member Diesel for his birthday. It was a good day. Day 9. We headed off to the Tasmanian Zoo and on the way found that the new camera had stopped working, so we turned around and went back to the camera place in town. Well, it turned out to be an issue with the SD card, so after replacing that, we headed back out to the zoo. On a side note, after replacing the card in the old camera, it worked perfectly. We arrived at the zoo. It's got a pretty decent driveway, and eventually made our way inside. There are a lot of birds, monkeys, and other animals throughout the zoo. Some of them were quite interesting. And not surprisingly, there was also Tassie devils. They even had a little feeding demonstration. But my favourite animal by far was the catbird. You're not a cat. Man, that bird was strange. Anyway, after the zoo, we had a late lunch and then met up with Diesel and went for a ride to the Lowhead Lighthouse. We cruised out of town, past a bus with a truck blocking oncoming traffic for us, and then rode over the Batman Bridge. The bridge was built between 1966 and 1968. It was the first cable-stayed bridge in Australia, and among the first such bridges in the world. The main span is 206 metres long and suspended from a 91 metre high steel A-frame tower. And it also gets quite windy. Our first stop was at the Patterson Memorial Monument in Georgetown, with views over the river. The monument marks the spot where Lieutenant Colonel Patterson took possession of northern Tasmania in the name of King George III. In 1804 he raised the Union Jack on Monument Point and fired a salute from his ship, HMAS Buffalo, marking Georgetown as the first European settlement in the north and one of the first in Australia. We continued on to the Lowhead Lighthouse, parked and went for a look. By this time the wind had really picked up, and up at the lighthouse it was almost strong enough to knock a person over. The Lowhead Lighthouse was the third one to be constructed in Australia, and it is also Australia's oldest continuously used pilot station. Well, That about does it for the day. We headed back out with Diesel leading us out along some nice back roads back into town. We said goodbye to Diesel on the way and then made our way back to the motel. All in all, it was a great day. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out the next video. Cheers.